Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new in-shop video and the first one with the green screen and all the setup. We are going to talk about the Dragon 121B, which is a tier 10 Chinese medium premium tank and actually a really nice tank as long as you know how to equip it and how to play it. So let's not lose too much time and jump directly into it because as you can see 15,000 gold for a tier 10 premium, it might seem like a juicy offer, but before rushing to your wallet you need to understand several things about the tank. So let's not lose too much time, jump directly into it. First thing first, we need to talk about the gun. The gun is actually a really nice one for tier 10, you only have 2.5 seconds of aiming time, which is quite low, a good gun dispersion, a good DPM of 3, nearly 3.2k and 6.6 seconds of reload. It doesn't seem like the best reload time or the best values ever for a gun, but I can tell you this is a pretty reliable one. Now, for the average penetration, here I have really good stats in terms of penetration because I'm using calibrated shell, and that's the main key. It's the key point to this tank. You need to play it with your calibrated shells. Without this, you're not gonna have good games, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. For the average damage, same as all 105mm gun, you have 350 with regular shells, 300 with gold shell and 400 with HE. The main problem I have with this tank is probably the lack of gun depression, sorry, but it's logic. I mean, you know, all the Chinese tanks have this problem, the WZ-113, the WZ-121, so it's a common thing about Chinese tanks. They're known for that, for the lack of gun depression, but for the amazing DPM to compensate for it. So it's all up to you. If you don't like tanks that don't do well on hilly terrains, it's definitely not a tank made for you. And another thing that is really interesting about the 121B is probably its turret armor. It's one of the most armored turrets at tier 10. 240mm at the front, knowing that, as you can see, the tank is... Wait, I can do that, that's gonna be funny. As you can see here, it's quite rounded here and here. So it's all up to you, to be fair. As long as you know how to angle it, that could be good. Finally, the mobility, quite average. I mean, it's in the norm if we consider all the tier 10 medium equally. It's gonna do fine. And for the turn rate, it's same, it's average. The only problem I have with this tank too, the lack of gun depression and that freaking ugly legendary camo. Like, what the fuck is that? Seriously, it looks unfinished and completely disgusting. I hate it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about camo, we are here to talk about statistics, so let's jump into the equipments. As I told you, the main thing is calibrated shell. If you don't use calibrated shell, you're gonna have really bad games, trust me. You wanna use calibrated. After I go for the enhanced gun lane drive and the vertical stabilizer to reduce as much as possible my aiming time, but also because if I went for the refined gun, it's gonna be effective only when my tank is not in movement, but with this tank, you are gonna move all the time. I'm gonna explain to you why in the playstyle section of the video, but overall, you need to understand that it's important for you to get the vertical stabilizer. After I go for the defense system, because I'm not gonna ram anybody, the improved assembly, because here it's all up to you actually, because you have an amazing turret armor, so you can enhance it with the enhanced armor. But if you enhanced it, just make sure to not stay in front of tank destroyers, because if they use gold shell, regardless of if you're using enhanced armor or not, they are gonna penetrate. But as they will penetrate regardless with gold shell, I go for the improved assembly, which is in my opinion a better equipment to equip the tank with. After I go for the toolbox, because enhanced track is worthless. Improved optics, because I'm not a camp destroyer, I'm not gonna camp, I don't need a camo. After I go for the engine accelerator, because overall my mobility is average, so why not increase it just a little bit. And finally, high-end consumable to use adrenaline for a longer period of time when I want to shoot my targets. That's pretty much how I'm playing this tank. We could go a little bit for the armor, we're gonna go on the armor inspector. And the cool thing about my new device is that I don't need to change things. I can just do that. Look at this. Book! I love that. That's crazy. Oh gosh, I'm a kid. Alright, so concerning the armor profile, as you can see, guys, you have an amazing turret armor. Here you have nearly 290 millimeters of armor. You're close to it, but you will not achieve it. Of course, what is really important to understand is that with this kind of armor, a lot of people are gonna bounce you in hull down. Just make sure that it's not a tank destroyer or a heavy tank with heat shell, because if it's the case, they will penetrate quite easily. Because as you can see, even if you can bounce regular shells, you will not bounce gold shells. You also have those two cupolas, which are quite angled and quite armored, even knowing those are weak spots, because 220 millimeters in a cupola, that's a lot. Even for a tier 10, that's quite a lot, even knowing it's supposed to be a weak spot. One thing also concerning the armor profile is probably the hull armor. It's one of the few tanks at tier 10 that actually has a good hull armor when it comes to the armor, because look at this, you have nearly 240 millimeters, so if you angle it just a little bit like that, it becomes impossible to penetrate. And if you angle it, let's say you go around a corner, there is someone here, and you're angling like that, and here there is a wall that doesn't allow your enemy to shoot your flank here. If you show only this part, you can bounce quite easily, and that's something I want to encourage you to do with this tank, because that's how you get some crazy bounces. But for the rest of the tank, it's paper, but it's normal. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing for every single tank in this game. But overall, I really like it, and I truly think it's a really nice tank, as long as you know how to deal with 6 degrees of gun depression, because as you can see, it doesn't feel that much. Okay, now let's go to the second part of the video, which is the replay. So here we go. So, concerning the replay, what you need to understand with this tank is that to make it effective, you need to play it in hull down. You need to find position from which you show only your turret, and if you do that, trust me, you will have great games, such as the one we are about to see. So I decided for the first game here to go with the rest of my team, the medium side mostly, with the Badget and the Sheridan. Why did I do that? Because if you take a look at the composition of both teams, they have an E50M, an STB-1 and a Vickers. Those tanks are pretty good in hull down, but I don't think they will play the traditional medium side way. I was expecting them to go with the rest of the heavies on their right side, simply because that's where the STB and the E50M are the most effective. Not necessarily the Vickers, but the STB and the E50M, it's definitely the case. So, as you can see, there is a stranger here, the I7, which has nothing to do there, but now he's here, so we have to deal with it. There is the STB as well. I first want to focus on the STB, because if I don't, he's gonna be able to sneak some shots on the Sheridan and the Badget if we decide to push. So I sneak some shots on the STB, I show him that I'm here and that I'm watching him in order to prevent him from shooting, but also to make him go away, you know, because if he knows I'm watching him and I'm in hull down and he knows he can penetrate me, he's gonna go away. And that's exactly what happens, so it gives us a free way on the I7 and the Vickers. Now we just have to deal with them, and it's gonna be quite easy, because from this position here, I'm gonna have the perfect hull down, and I can also angle my hull. As you can see, the calibrated shell are doing the job here. If I didn't have those calibrated, it would be a struggle to penetrate, let's be honest. But here with calibrated, it goes really fine. I sting my shots on the IS-7. The IS-7 is gonna try as well to penetrate me, but regardless of where he shots, hull, turret, if he doesn't go for the cupolas, it's impossible for him to penetrate, which gives me a free way to its HP. I'm literally destroying that poor IS-7. I nearly killed him by myself without taking a single damage from him. Now we have the Vickers to deal with. I drop down here because if you take a look at the map, which is right here, I love that. If you take a look at the map, you see that they're pushing on the other side, and I don't want my team to die too soon, so they need my help. And in order for me to move, I need to get the Vickers kill. It's done, now we just have to deal with the rest of them. I know there is the Emil 2 that is coming back into his spawn to try to get me, but it seems like the guy took a lot of time to get there, so I'm not gonna focus on him because he's full life. I really want to kill tanks first. That's why I decided to focus on the E50M, which is definitely not watching me, and that can become a real threat, because if the E50M managed to just face hug me, it's gonna be quite hard for me to destroy him. So I stick 2 shots on the E50M, but now he's watching me, so I decided to drop down before the Emil 2 pushed me, and now I'm just gonna try to get to the E50M. But before going, I see that the Batchat is in trouble and that the Emil 2 is probably gonna try to go on him. So I sneak a first shot on the Emil, I switch to HE, I try to get him Amarak in the back of the turret, and boom, it works. What a great shot. Now we only have to deal with the E50M and the Yak Panther, but we still need to be careful, because the Batchat is a one-shot and the MX 5120 is a one-shot as well. But don't worry, it's not gonna be a problem because I'm using calibrated shell. Look at this, if I didn't have calibrated shell here, it would be impossible for me to penetrate the Yak. But here I can do it quite easily, simply because I equipped my tank the right way. And this shot is extremely important that I took from the Yak Panzer. It was a heat shell. I told you, with this tank you can bounce, but if a tank destroyer uses gold shell, it's over for you. Luckily for me, he didn't do a high roll, which didn't allow him to destroy me. Now I only have to deal with the E50M. I don't want to die, so I'm just trying to side scrape for him to see only the back of my turret. He bounces, which allows me with heat shell to sneak a shot into his armor and destroy him. 6k damage, ace tanker, literally everything, top gun, high caliber. Now that was a really great game, and that's pretty much how you want to play your 1-to-1B all the time. What you need to understand is that if you're not in all down with this tank, you are gonna get destroyed. And if you are on hilly terrains, make sure to go on a flat terrain, or at least artificially increase your armor by using the terrain around you. If you don't do that, don't buy the 1-to-1B invincible, because you're gonna struggle. But overall, it's a nice tank. Let's be honest. I hope you enjoyed the review, guys. If that's the case, feel free to subscribe, like, and share. And I'm gonna see you soon for a new one. See ya.